extremely delighted that we have Professor Srinivas, who will be delivering the valedictory address for us. Professor Srinivas got himself trained as a theoretical physicist. So he did PhD in quantum measurements in University of Rochester. And then he joined Madras Theoretical Physics Department. So he served there for 20 plus years. But in that period, apparently he got deeply interested in studying various aspects of Indian civilization. So even though he was a theoretical physicist, he had a training in Sanskrit as well as music, etc. in his family tradition in Karnataka, Bengaluru. So he picked up serious interest in studying various aspects of our civilization, and after 20 years of service, though he produced some remarkable papers in theoretical physics, as a theoretical physicist, and that was one of the foundational topics, most important topic, which is called quantum measurements. So he felt that he should devote more time to study various aspects of our civilization, and they got inspiration from another senior person called Dharampal, and they formed a society and a group of people. So they started studying various aspects of civilization, and so he left the job as a theoretical physicist. So then a Center for Policy Studies was started, and then they have been producing almost a dozen books he has authored. And more importantly, I have seen him. So in fact, we have Amartya here. So Amartya would describe Professor Srinivas as a walking encyclopedia. So in that, say there are some people who may be able to remember things in their own mind once they have seen something. So he has that such a remarkable ability. And personally, I have immensely benefited by interactions with him. And another remarkable feature about Professor Srinivas is, so he shares the resources, credits with others without any kind of hesitation. So anybody seeks any help, so immediately he will be. In fact, there are some scholars who would like to reserve certain things for them. And that kind of an attitude we'll never ever find in Professor Srinivas, and I don't want to take much time. So recently he was awarded this year Padma Shri also. Okay. And in fact, when I was sharing this news, one of my friends, I'm happy to share this news, I said. He said, I'm sad, he should have been given Padma Bhushan, he said. Okay, so with that I request Professor Srinivas to address us.
My namaskar to everyone. I'm indeed very privileged, honored to join this meeting, and I'm very grateful to Dr. Sudha Gopalakrishnan ji and my friend Ram Subramanian ji and the IIC for asking me to even deliver this valedictory address. So I thought I will say something on the manuscripts issue as such. So I will have a little bit of a preamble there and then go to this manuscripts part. So this is going this way, I see. Let us see. Oh, this one. No, this also not moving.
Shall it try? Yes. Now try.
Okay, just press that. Yeah. Okay, so I will have a little bit of a preamble that why bother about the manuscript wealth of India. Then I will say something about what is currently talked about as the number of manuscripts around. More important is perhaps the distribution of the manuscripts over different disciplines. So what is known about that? Then I will go to astronomy and mathematics and try and summarize what estimates do we have there in that specific area, and what does it imply in terms of what we have accomplished, knowing about our astronomy and mathematics heritage over the last 2.5 centuries in modern scholarship, and just some final comment. So basically, I think in India there has been over the recent decades a growing realization that for a resurgence of our civilization in modern times, it's perhaps important that all our current activities, efforts should be informed by and anchored in our knowledge traditions, what we may call Bharatiya Jnana Parampara or something like that. And they should also be linked or rooted in the Indian context. So this Bharatiya Jnana Parampara is very wide actually. It encompasses various systematized disciplines of knowledge which were developed to a very high degree of sophistication in India from the ancient times. And also the practices, traditions of various communities of India, including the tribal communities, all of whom have evolved and defined and preserved this knowledge tradition over generations. And now it's, again, in the last few decades, it's becoming clear that this Jnana Parampara was flourishing in varied spheres of activity from the Vedic period till the early decades of the 19th century. And they were actually founded on our foundational values and principles of our civilization. And all through known history, all these traditions were practiced, as we have seen in the various presentations, innovated, taught. They contributed immensely to the prestige enjoyed by India as a land of great knowledge and wisdom. And they ensured also that India was materially a flourishing civilization and a major economic power in the world during most of known history till the early decades of 19th century. Now, during the millennia of its hoary history, surely we would have adopted, borrowed many ideas, techniques from various other civilizations, but they have been interpreted and adopted into the basic Indian civilizational values, which formed the core of all our endeavors till a couple of centuries ago. Only this study and practice, this flow, got seriously disturbed, mainly during the period of British rule, and particularly through the system of education that the British implanted here. But what is important for us to realize currently is not cry about the history, but just realize that we have been at the process of rediscovering our knowledge traditions. Especially a large number of dedicated Indian scholars have devoted all their energies and time over the last 150 years or perhaps a little more. But we are still not, we cannot confidently say that we have a comprehensive understanding of our knowledge traditions in any area, the concepts, the techniques, and things like that. I will try to illustrate it a little bit in the case of astronomy and mathematics. And one of the main reasons is that all these efforts at rediscovering our knowledge traditions have been carried out on mostly voluntarily, personally inspired basis, and more or less outside our institutions of higher learning. So, in fact, it's a welcome direction that we see in the new National Educational Policy of 2020. One of the architects is here with us, that it has emphasized these two things, that research on Indian knowledge traditions should be among the mandated primary tasks to be undertaken by our institutions of higher learning, and that these traditions should form an essential part of our curricula taught in schools, colleges, and institutions. So for this first half, that the research on Indian knowledge traditions should be among mandated tasks, we need to do several things, and that's what takes us back to this manuscript wealth of India. We need to really therefore pay, if we have to rediscover our knowledge traditions and comprehend them, at least to a reasonably satisfactory level, we need to pay particular attention. This could be our society, state, all institutions which are competent and capable, like Samhita here in IIC or CTSTI in Bombay, that collecting, preserving, documenting, classifying, and perhaps digitizing and making widely available the huge corpus of sources of Indian knowledge. So what are these sources? So manuscripts, of course, is the primary one. I will talk about it later. So this basically, recently, I think in the Man Ki Baat last month, our Honorable Prime Minister said that these are the chapters of India's soul, which we have to teach in the coming generations. There is a large number of published works. Whenever we talk of manuscripts, we should not forget that over the last 200 years, a large number of texts have been published, source works have been published, commentaries have been published, and even several translations have been published. And these could number about 4 to 5 lakh books. I mean, it's a very rough estimate. So they have to be properly reclassified and brought together in our libraries, and they should be made, and also on websites, and made widely available. Then, of course, they need to be systematically studied for comprehending the technical content, because mere publication of a work does not ensure, as we will see in several examples later, that we know what the text actually contains. It has great effort would have been taken to publish it. There are, of course, inscriptions, and there are quite a lack of them which have been collected. Perhaps only 10% have been published and translated. There are archival records, reports, etc. They form basis, for instance, for the seminal work of Sri Dharampalji and various others on 18th century. There is material heritage, materials, tools, instruments, structures, heritage sites, even cities. Then, of course, living practices of our people and communities. And finally, equally important are the modern studies of last 200 to 50 years, books, reports, articles. All these form the sources. So I'll straight away go to manuscripts. In 1960s, V. Raghavan wrote a book called Manuscripts, Catalogs and Publications. So that was in 1963. And he gave some indication of manuscripts in various collections that he saw, but he refused to make an estimate of what would be the manuscript wealth of India. It's very difficult to say in India how many manuscripts are there in various collections. So one of the earliest attempts is by Klaus Ludwig Jenert. Actually, he compiled all the catalogs of Indian manuscripts. So there were about 700 volumes from 339 institutions. And he therefore could see that there are about 550,000 entries, manuscripts, of which 50,000, 5 lakhs were listed in Indian collections. This is one of the earliest estimates. Then, towards the end of last century, much more detailed similar survey was done on the basis now of about, I think, the number of 2,000 volumes of catalogs published till about 1990. These were two important information and documentation scientists, I think based in Delhi, C. Vishwas and M.K. Prajapati. This is a very, very authentic volume, Bibliography Survey of Indian Manuscript Catalogs. It only says, of course, where this collection is and what is the catalog, how many manuscripts it contains, some basic details. And they estimated that perhaps there are about 3.5 million manuscripts, and of them only perhaps about 10 lakh have been catalogued in various catalogs, and there have been 300 of these catalogs are perhaps outside India, but the number of manuscripts outside India, he estimated, was that there could be about 60,000 manuscripts in Europe, including and North America. England would be about 30,000, and the other is 20,000 in rest of Europe, and perhaps 7,000-8,000 in North America. But there are also several Asian collections of about 1.5 lakhs. Now, this number could be much larger, especially the Asian collections could be much larger. He also gave some very interesting information on the language distribution of all these manuscripts. So, about 80% of them were in Sanskrit, Prakrit, and Apabhramsha. 8% in Hindi, various Braj Bhasha, Maithili, Bhojpuri, etc. Tamil about 4%, Gujarati 1.5%, Persian is there, Kannada is there, Urdu, Telugu, Marathi, Arabic is there. So like that, about 10.5 lakhs were sort of classified as per the language. This is still currently what is the information available on the language distribution. The scripts in which they are written, even with Sanskrit, there are more than 17, 18 scripts in which the Sanskrit manuscripts are written. Now we have more later estimates. Sheldon Pollock, in his famous book, Language of Gods in the World of Men, he says it has been estimated that over 30 million manuscripts are extant, 8 million in Rajasthan alone, along with many hundreds of thousands of inscriptions. Okay, and he says, for a comparison, for all of Greek literature, classical, Hellenistic, and Byzantine. Some 30,000 manuscript is what are extant, and the Indic material is thus about a factor of 1,000 compared to, this from with Charles Minkowski, who was a professor in Oxford. So Sheldon Pollock, in fact, is talking about the fact that it has been a myth that it was the print culture which widely disseminated the knowledge. Even the pre-print or manuscript culture of India ensured very wide dissemination of knowledge. He's talking of King Jaisimha, that's the Pathan king, who was the ruler at the time of the great Jain scholar Hemachandra. He's saying he spent 30,000, 300,000 coins to have Hemachandra's, I think that's Shabdanushasana, grammar reproduced so that the text circulated and grew famous in all lands, from Assam to Sri Lanka to Sindh, whatever is we know as the Great India. There is a later estimate, it goes back to Professor David Pingree, the teacher of Professor Clemency Montel. So Dominic Kujastik, who has maintains a website on all manuscript catalogs which are freely downloadable. So he says that the late Professor Pingree passed away in 2005. Basing his count on a lifetime of academic engagement, we will say about it a little bit about it later, with Indian manuscripts, he estimated that there were 30 million manuscripts if one counted both those in public and government libraries and those in private collections. This is a personal communication to Dominic Kujastik in 1990s. Those very large figures, Kujastik feels, are justified. And at that time, he's writing this article. First, he talked about it, I think, in a conference in 2005 or 6 in Bangalore. I think Sheldon Pollock's number comes from that only. And later on, this is a volume that he published in 2014, by which time a large number of collections became known. So this Koba collection, that is in Gandhinagar, with the 2.5 lakhs, which was one of the biggest collections. Saraswati Bhavan Library of Sampurnanand University in Sanskrit University in Varanasi, 1 lakh. 85,000 in various repositories in Delhi. 50,000 in the Saraswati Mahal Library of Raja Sarfoji in Tanjavur, etc. And various manuscript surveys were also made by the National Manuscript Mission in 2004 and 5. So they had found 6.5 lakh manuscripts in around 35,000 repositories in just the 3 states of Orissa, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. So based upon these kind of figures, he thought this was reasonable. So we can go to the estimates of the National Manuscript Mission itself. The idea was floated by Professor Murli Manohar Joshi and Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji in 2002. And this was formally inaugurated in February 2003, part of the Ministry of Culture. So in their website, currently they say when you open the website that India possesses an estimate of 10 million manuscripts, probably the largest collection in the world. But if you go inside the website, there is somewhere else they are saying India possesses an estimate of 5 million manuscripts, probably the largest collection. Perhaps I hope they will soon change this. Now, this is the kind of activities which have gone on. So they have documented about 4.4 million manuscripts. They have set up a national database of manuscript with information on 3.4 million manuscripts. So that much is there in their, I think, system, I suppose. And they have conducted surveys in 18 states. And in some of these surveys, they have seen 3.3 lakh they have digitized 3.3 lakh manuscripts, which corresponds to about 3.3 crore pages. And they say they have revived and supported the new catalogogram, and I will say what it is in a few minutes. And they have a publication program, about 55 works have been published. So they are listing the major manuscript collections in India. So again, the Koba, Acharya Shri Kalashuri Jnana Mandir at Koba. So that has 2.5 lakhs. Saraswati Bhavan, 90,000. So like that, we come down to Rampur Raza Library in UP, 18,000. About 15 have been listed. But then they have given a PDF report of about 3,840 repositories. And if you see, Assam, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Orissa, Rajasthan, and UP have been surveyed fairly systematically. But you see Karnataka only 2 repositories, Kerala only 2 repositories, then Chandigarh 2 repositories. I mean, like that, there are many, Tamil Nadu 5 repositories. So this is sort of a preliminary report only. But in their website, they give details of other surveys they have conducted. For instance, the 6.5 lakhs in 35,000 depositories of Orissa, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar. Then there is Delhi's 85,000 comes. Then Rajasthan's 7.5 lakh come. But there is also details on in Manipur 23,000. Then in Tamil Nadu they are talking of 75,000 manuscripts. In Karnataka 1 lakh manuscripts and things like that. So many more surveys perhaps, or more intensive and comprehensive surveys perhaps need to be conducted in the next couple of years. But for the time being, we can take this estimate of 10 million manuscripts as a reasonably good estimate. And perhaps only 3 to 4 lakhs of them are abroad, but they have been perhaps better preserved and better catalogued. And if our government uses its sort of diplomatic influence, we may be able to, with the help of institutions like Samhita, we may be able to get at least the soft copies of these national treasures. Then the Sanskrit manuscripts can be expected to be about 8 million, and they were written in around 20 scripts. So this is about the estimates of manuscript wealth. Now when we go to the distribution of them over various disciplines, we need to have what is called a union catalogue. That is a combination of all the catalogues from which you can draw inferences. The first attempt was done more than 120 years ago by a great German scholar, Theodor Aufrecht. So at that time, he was looking with about 94 catalogs only. At that time, these were only the European collections were mostly catalogued. Some of you older European collections. So 94 catalogs in his first volume listed 60,000 works, authors and works alphabetically. So he set up a sort of a framework for doing it. Now this became outdated within 20-30 years. So in 1930s, Professor Woolner, who was Vice Chancellor of Lahore University, suggested in one of the Oriental conferences that we should have a new catalogus catalogorum. It took quite some time to materialize. It started with great effort by, I think, Professor Kunjuni Raja and later Raghavan. And and later Professor Virinathan and Professor Siniruddha Das. So in 40 years, from 66 to 2015, they have published 39 volumes. The series will get completed with the 3 more volumes. Or to sue have been published. There are 3 volumes pending, but the fact is that they have been pending for more than 6 years. And several scholars have written to the University of Madras also, and perhaps to Professor Dash and others for completion. But I think it is in the hands of Ministry of Culture to ask for these to be published, and we will have at least the complete set. So this is a page from the Catalogus Catalogorum. Aryabhatta, he writes Aryashtashata and gives some references of manuscripts and something about Parameshwara's commentary. This is the corresponding entry in New Catalogus Catalogorum. It gives quite a bit of information about Aryabhatta himself, what has been published. Then you see a large number of manuscripts being talked about here. Adyar 2, PA 48. Those are all symbols for the catalogue and the page in which it occurs. And this Catalogus Catalogorum classifies all these manuscripts into something like these 40-45 categories. Several Shastras are mentioned, Nyaya, Dharma Shastra, Grammar, Jyotisha, and various Vedic Shakhas are mentioned. Philosophical systems are mentioned. Like that, it has a preliminary classification. So in each entry of the text, they would have marked. So this is a list of authors and works. So under Aryabhatta, this Aryabhatiya will come. So what is the extent of this New Catalogus Catalogorum? The first 14 volumes, that is still about volumes published till about 2005, they have been based upon about 400 catalogs and a large number of secondary sources. The next set of volumes, 15 to 39, have been based upon about 900 catalogs. And some preliminary estimates could be made because they have been some of these catalogs have been digitized and all that. And we see they seem to be listing something like 1.8 million manuscripts, more than.
This kind of difference between 1 to 14 and then 14 to.
No, I think it is said that Professor Raghavan sort of fixed the number of catalogs so that the records are uniform. And perhaps he was thinking that later on they will publish a supplementary volume containing. A very similar problem with Professor Pingree's census also, we'll see later. So 1.8 million manuscripts, which is roughly twice the number quoted by Bishwas and Prajapati, and perhaps about 3 lakh texts, including the commentaries, and their authors are listed in this. So if we could analyze these catalogs themselves, we will know the sort of distribution of manuscripts over various. So some preliminary estimates. There are these about 29 works, starting with Bhagavad Gita, Raghuvamsha, Mahabharata, Siddhanta Kaumudi, Bhagavata, etc., which have more than 1,000 manuscripts each. And there are also large number of works with several commentaries on them. The Brahma Sutra has 400 commentaries. Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavata have more than 200. Ramayana and Amarkosha 115. Lilavati has, I think, more than 900 manuscripts listed and 65 commentaries, and we saw one published yesterday. We were fortunate to see one of the longest commentaries of Lilavati. Siddhanta Shiromani has more than 500 manuscripts, and its most important commentary by Bhaskara himself, Vasana Bhashya, we again saw it translated and released yesterday. Now, about 30 years ago, when the new Tamil University was constituted in Tanjavur, a very enterprising vice chancellor, I think V.I. Subramanian is called, he was also the founder of the Institute of Dravidian Linguistics in Thiruvananthapuram. So he started a sort of computer science documentation department and put them in charge of trying to collect all the catalogs of Tamil manuscripts. And so in 1991, they published a 5-volume union catalogs of Tamil manuscripts. So 20,804 were in India and about 1,169 outside India. And then he published a last appendix giving a bibliometric analysis of all these manuscripts. Remember, this 21,900 is much shorter than the 90,000 that NMM has surveyed in. Maybe not all of them may be Tamil manuscripts, but still. So this information is preliminary, we should say. But it's interesting. So there is a 3 kind of division. 38.5 of the manuscripts are on religion and philosophy. In Tamil, it's called Samayam. And about 28% is on literature. And the rest, which is about 33.5%, would be all our other knowledge system, sciences, humanities, social sciences. Medicine is very important. It accounts for about 1/7 of between 1/15% of all the manuscripts. Mathematics and astrology about 6.3. Science of language 6%. So this is the kind of information that they provided, which I thought was very welcome. So it shows the very prominent role that the medical manuscripts do play in our regional language traditions. This is very important. I am sure in Kerala it will be much more similar. Then in 1995-97, Professor K.V. Sharma, who has been associated with the Catalogus Catalogorum during 1951, New Catalogus Catalogorum between 51 to 62, he was, I think, 73 then, 76 then, at that age. He undertook a sort of arduous task of surveying about 1.5 lakh manuscripts. Most of them they physically went and surveyed, I think, he and Professor Mamta Mishra and others. This was in 247 manuscript repositories in Kerala and 147 manuscript repositories in Tamil Nadu. On Sanskrit manuscripts on science, they tried to provide it, and that's published as a book. And the survey is quite interesting. I'll just show you the table. So about 1.5 lakh manuscripts were surveyed. 12 lakh manuscripts pertain to these categories: astrology, astronomy and mathematics, medicine, architecture, musicology, chemistry, veterinary science, agriculture. So they found that this was only 8% of the total manuscript surveyed, but this 12,000 manuscripts were manuscripts pertaining to 3,500 texts. So each text had on the average 3 to 4 manuscripts, but only 229 of them had been edited and published so far. This is one survey which gives us the kind of Sanskrit manuscripts. Here you can see in the Sanskrit tradition, the astrology manuscript do predominate over the astronomy and mathematics. So if you have what is called Jyotish Shastra, it is divided into 3 components, what is called the Ganita Jyotisha, which is mathematics and astronomy. Then it's called the Jataka, which is Hora or astrology. Then Samhita, which is sort of natural science, omens, etc. So the astronomy and mathematics constitute about 35% of the Jyotish Shastra manuscripts. And the medicine manuscripts are not as high as they were in the Tamil kind of a tradition. So this is one page from Professor Sharma's volume. So he is listing each work by title and marking out. He estimated about 450 works of Kerala works, of which I think 200 were in Sanskrit and other 250 were in Malayalam. So, now about coming to astronomy and mathematics. So we are fortunate that amongst all our various disciplines, this Jyotish Shastra has found many scholarly attempts at listing all the works and manuscripts and things like that. One of the earliest attempts when this History of Science journal started in INSAF, which Professor Ram Subramaniam now heads the journal, this was by Samarendranath Sen, who was then sort of registrar in India Association of Cultivation of Science. Sri Ramala Rajeshwara Sharma, whose name came today, who currently stays in Germany, was professor in Aligarh, Sanskrit professor. Amulya Kumar Bagh was student of S.M. Sen. S.M. Sen has edited this cultural history of India, Ramakrishna Mission, that science volume. So they wanted to make a bibliography, but it was a job done fairly quickly with whatever material was available in INSA. So they did some 664 works under 480 authors. But at the same time, a much more sort of detailed program was launched by late Professor David Pingree. So he started on it sometime around 1955. He came to Indian astronomy. He was working on, he was a student of Professor David Ingalls in Harvard. He was working on astrology, and in the Latin Rome manuscripts in Rome, in the Vatican manuscripts, he found various links between Sanskrit astrology, and so that's how he was drawn. And of course, he was a scholar of Sanskrit, Latin, and later became Akkadian, Sumerian, and Persian, Arabic also. So he started what something called the Census of Exact Sciences in Sanskrit, and 5 volumes have been published between 1970 to 1994, covering from A to Va. The last volume, and it was divided into series A, which was indexed on the authors. So works for which we don't know the authors do not appear, even if they start from A to Va. That was to come in the series B. And so the last volume, unfortunately, has not been published. There was some idea that a draft of it might be available when he passed away in 2005, but it is still being explored. So this is how the entry of Aryabhatta appears, gives a history of what is known about him, then lists the details of Aryabhatiya, then goes into various manuscripts that are there. And later on talks about any publications, then any articles written on it, and translations. And so the first volume of census used 400 catalogs. So the census went in a different way. As and when more catalogs were included, in the subsequent volumes, they put sort of the supplementary material in each of the volumes. So if you want to search about Aryabhatiya, you have to look up all the 5 published volumes. That's the disadvantage, but you have the advantage that the later catalogs are included. So it is estimated that if the 6th volume is also taken into account, there could be 4,000 authors who could be listed in them. But again, for the subsystems and subdisciplines of Jyotisha, analysis of this manuscript and details of where the authors come from and their period, etc., need to be done. So, Professor Pingree, because of his very detailed knowledge of the manuscript wealth in Jyotish Shastra, he has himself collected, I think, more than 2,000 manuscripts. I mean, got them copied and things like that. So, he wrote a review in 1981 of Jyotish Shastra for this series edited by John Gonda. And there he says that there are about 1 lakh manuscripts in Jyotish Shastra. That includes all the 3 skandhas. Now, comparing it with Professor Sharma's figures for this is Sanskrit manuscript only, Sanskrit, Pali and Prakrit. So, it's very similar material. So, we can estimate that about 30,000 could be the number of manuscripts pertaining to astronomy and mathematics. Roughly, if you quickly go through the catalogs, you will also see that it is. And 30,000 manuscripts may again roughly correspond to about 9,000 works, same 3 to 3.5 manuscripts per work. Now, so this is the situation that we perhaps have about 9,000 manuscripts on mathematics and astronomy, and they could be in around 30,000. It's an estimate again. Now, what has been our modern scholarship? So, this is the scholarship from, say, institution of the Asiatic Society in Kolkata in 1784. And we can use the bibliographies. There are lots of bibliographies, both of Professor Sharma on the Kerala works, Professor Pingree with the census, and even the S.R. Sharma's collection. And we can get some idea what has done. In the initial, what is called period when it was mostly European scholars who were leading, you can see that there were only about 15 source works were published and about 10 translated. So in all, 25 works would have been handled. So it more or less started with the translation of Bijaganita and Lilavati by Strachey and Taylor, and then a more authoritative translation of Bijaganita and Lilavati, along with 2 chapters of Brahmasputa Siddhanta, the Ganita and Kuttaka, was done by Colebrook in 1817, and that more or less set the tone for all the analysis of Indian mathematics over the next 130 years. I mean, the next major work to be seen was actually the translation of Ganita Sar Sangraha by M. Rangachari in 1912. Then Marathi translation of Siddhanta Shiromani appeared in 1837. Lancelot Wilkinson in Madhya Pradesh, he got Vasana Bhashya published, Devanāgarī published, and there was a Tamil work of Vakya Astronomy, which was also published with some translation from Sri Lanka in 1848. Then Fritz Hall and Bapudev Shastri. Bapudev Shastri was trained in traditional way in Indian astronomy and sciences, but he was a professor in the Queen's College at what is now the Sampurnanand Sanskrit University. So the Surya Siddhanta with Gurartha Prakashika of Ranganatha was published. It was soon translated by Ebenezer Burgess with revision by W.D. Whitney in 1860. So again, this fixed the understanding of European Indology on Indian astronomy. More or less, most works till 1920s would be basing their analysis on what is said by Colebrook and what is said in the Whitney's Burgess translation of Surya Siddhanta. About the ancient work, the Albrecht Weber published the Vedanga Jyotisha with Somakara's commentary from Berlin in 1862. Aryabhatiya got published only in 1874 with the commentary of Parameshwara. This was the only Kerala work that had been published till 1875. So these were the 10 works translated and 15 works edited. So in all, 25 works have been attended to in this period. In the next period, many Indians participated in it, and one of the earliest persons to participate in it was Mahamohopadhyaya, Sudhakar Dwivedi, who was a student of Bapudev Shastri in Varanasi. He became a professor in the same college. So in about 30 years, Sudhakar Dwivedi edited and published more than 20 important texts, often with his own commentary, like Brahmasputa Siddhanta. We have his commentary only. Similarly, for Pancha Siddhantika, we have his translation associated with George Thibault. Then soon various scholars all over India, mainly Calcutta, Pune, Trivandrum and other places. So in this next 75 years, till independence. Another 130 more source works were edited and 20 were translated. And post-independence, we have added another 300 works to the source works which have been edited, and the number which have been translated is around 65. So this increase perhaps falls much short of what was indeed required of Indian scholarship to arrive at a fairly reasonable understanding of our tradition of mathematics and astronomy. So this is the summary table. In last 5 years, some few more works have been, say, the Kannada works which were mentioned, and there are many other works which have also been edited. About 10 more works have been edited, and perhaps 5-6 have been translated in the last 5-6 years. So it's true that substantial progress has been achieved in terms of available works. So 450 works have been edited, in all 545 we can say, and 95 of them have been translated and their technical content given. So we know what is contained in Shulva Sutras, Bhakshali Manuscript, Surya Siddhanta, and the works of many great authors like Parashara, Lagadha. Now we also know the what is called the Mahasalila work of Valedictory, Spuji, Dvaja, Arya Bhatta, Varahamira, Bhaskaravan. So many of these names have been recited in the last 2 days, but still, even amongst all these, several important works of even these great scholars and commentaries written on them have not been done. Say several commentaries of Aryabhatta which have not been published. Brahmagupta's Brahmasputa Siddhanta, which was one of the greatest works of mathematics and astronomy of its time, along with the Pratudaka's commentary. Perhaps now it is available fully. Couple of chapters have been edited. There has been an edition of the work without translation and without commentary, and that really is a top priority. Similarly, we have not found the important work of Vateshwara. We have Bhaskara's works have now been translated. Narayana Pandita's work perhaps needs one more edition because that was edited in 1935 by Padmakar Dwivedi, and perhaps Professor Ram Subramanian will complete this. Madhava's works 2-3 are yet to see the light of the day. One Lagna Prakarana is to come from here, and several of Parameshwara's works. Several of Parameshwara's works have to be. Say Nilakanta Swamiyaji's entire Aryabhatiya Bhashya, which is his greatest contribution to Indian astronomy, all aspects of it, mathematics, methodology, philosophy, everything. That needs to be, it was edited partially in 1931 and 32, first 2 parts. 1955, the Golapada was edited, but even a new edition is needed, translation is needed. So like this, we can go on. Several works of Ganesh Daivagya have not been edited.
What is
Bhudara, I think it's some tables, I think. I don't know. I don't remember now. Achyuta Pisharati, several works are not edited. Jayasimha and his contemporaries' works, something was said about the. Now we have a very detailed catalogue of collections in one set of collections in Jaipur edited by David Pingree. We can go and see what are all the works and do it. Shankara Varman's own commentary on his Sadratnamala, Malayalam one, was published long time ago, but it needs to be looked into. So, like this, even amongst these great names, there are a lot of things. But at the level of macro level, when there are 9,000 source texts, and when we have only 450 which have been published, and only 90 or so which have been seriously studied with the translation, it seems like not really adequate effort. Though we might have gotten some of the major landmarks about of Indian mathematics and astronomy, the real continuity between the Vedic period to the early Vedanga period to the Siddhanta period, and similarly much of the work that has happened post 15th century, all those need the continuity and all that we will have to examine. And so that this lacuna that we have not done, even in this discipline on which perhaps over a dozen accounts have been, mathematics and astronomy, or especially mathematics, perhaps there are over a dozen very beautiful reviews or histories of Indian mathematics and astronomy written. Chronologies have been given, the sort of works have been described and established. Astronomy is not that lucky, but still there are a couple of sort of efforts at providing the overall history. But even in this discipline, we lack this. Now, when you go to other disciplines, say you see something like chemistry, what we have is only one history of Professor Chandra Rai written around 120 years ago, and things like that. In fact, there was some note by Vaidya Gangadharan in a volume brought out by National Manuscripts Mission. So there again, they are wondering how many manuscripts are there in Ayurveda. Some people say anywhere between 20,000 to 1 lakh. It could perhaps be more if you include all the regional language ones. And the estimate is only less than 2% of medical literature. In medical literature, the manuscripts are very important because they actually sort of establish what can be called the database of the efficacy of this medical system. And so each Vaidya's thing is not just a catalog or a text which is writing that there are 3 dhatus and 3 doshas and panchadhatus, and it's actually explaining how they have attempted various. So in that, all manuscripts will be of importance. So ultimately, coming back to the point that if research on Indian knowledge traditions should be given priority, we need to pay particular attention to this collecting, preserving, documenting, classifying, and making widely available all sources of Indian knowledge traditions. But wherever we know what are important, we should pay attention to the important works which have not been done. But the documentation and classifying and collecting information, making them available is a much larger task, where I think larger institutions, including the government, have to participate. And I thank you very much for this, allowing me to.
Thank you, Professor Srinivas. Now we come to the end of this entire conference. Actually, this role of mine was supposed to be performed by Mr. Govind Mohan, Home Secretary, Government of India. But last moment yesterday, he had to rush to Chhattisgarh for some development that has taken place over there. So that's why he could not come. When we decided to have this conference on the South Asia Manuscripts Heritage and Mathematical contribution, actually we had to heavily depend upon outside support, because within the IIC, we definitely did not have the resource persons. Fortunately, we were able to contact Professor K. Ramasubramaniam, and he very kindly agreed not only to participate in the whole conference, but also be the convener of this conference. So with his help and Dr. Alvar's help, we have not only been able to really put up a nice conference, 2 days conference, but also a fantastic exhibition which was inaugurated yesterday by our minister. As was mentioned earlier, we started the Samhita project a few years, I will say some 3 years back, and initially we did not have much of a support because all these efforts required resources. We contacted Ministry of External Affairs, and we thought that let us focus on the manuscripts which are lying outside the country. That's how the Samhita project was started. Luckily, the ministry supported. We completed first phase, now first pilot phase, now second pilot phase, and our main Samhita project is pending clearance by Ministry of External Affairs and Ministry of Culture. Let me say that this is such a monumental task that unless there is a governmental support, things are really not going to move. With the governmental support also comes the corporate support. I have seen myself when this manuscript mission was launched. At that time, I was in the Ministry of Culture in 2002-03 period, and Mr. Gopalaswamy, he was our boss. He was the secretary in the Ministry of Culture. There was a political bill, and Mr. Gopalaswamy himself, a very, very renowned, Sanskrit scholar, he lent his heft to this. All of us started working, and finally Sudha was brought in to spearhead it. So it did a fantastic work. But then, after a year or so, there was a change of government, and the whole approach also changed. So I would say for almost 10 years of UPA rule, this was put in hibernation, and not much could be heard. So much so that even the work done have also not been properly systematized and put to order and also made accessible to the interested scholars. Anyway, that phase is gone. NDA government again came. Initial few years, of course, they also did not really consider this an important subject, but now they have realized maybe the Samhita initiative what we took made the government of India, present government of India, to think over seriously. And now I am told the Ministry of Culture is going to launch it as a major program. We have had meetings with them, and they have also indicated that they are going to involve IAC in a massive way in digitizing and documenting the manuscripts outside the country, and they would also be when taking our help even within the country. Now, Professor Srinivas, he really brought out in vivid details, about the various kinds of manuscripts that are existing in various repositories inside and outside the country, and he also stressed upon the need of really, bringing them to a platform where they could be accessed by everybody. I'm sure now the initiative which has been taken by Government of India and with the support of all of you, we should definitely be able to make a major headway in that direction. I'm very happy that Government of India in the new education policy have also decided to include Indian knowledge system as one of the subjects to be taught to the students. I have, as a student, I recall in my school days, early 60s, there were some chapters relating to the contribution made by our ancient Indians in the field of science and elsewhere.
When I studied, we didn't have.
No,
Depends on
but
the state.
yes, I was UP, but subsequently I found that those chapters have also vanished. So, I would feel that so much of prejudice has been created against the Indian knowledge system, against the Indian values, etc., in the colonial period and even earlier, that it is going to be taking some more time for us to get over that kind of mindset and ultimately bring the people, the students, the world community, the Indian community, more than world community, the Indian community, that there is something great, which should make us feel pride of. Our intention is definitely not to decry what the West has contributed in the field of science and mathematics, but basically to say that it is not that we were oblivious of this knowledge. This knowledge was very much with us, and we have also contributed it. So some bit of self-pride it will generate, because without self-pride, no nation can really move forward. I am extremely grateful that with the help of Dr. Subramaniam, K. Ramasubramaniam, and Dr. Alvar, we have been able to contact very many scholars in the field of mathematics within the country and outside the country. We are very fortunate to have Professor Manjul Bhargav, who kindly agreed to be with us and deliver the keynote address. We are thankful, I'm really thankful and grateful to Professor M.S. Sriram, Professor Venkateshwar Pai, Professor Amartya Kumar Datta, Professor Aditya Kolachanna, Professor Clemency Montella, Professor K. Ramasubramanian, Professor Najaf Haider, Professor C. K. Raju, Professor Eva Othman, Professor M. A. Alvar, and Professor Deepak Parmeshwaran. And as a part of our Samhita, initiative, we also, organize Kriti Samhita series of lectures, in which, some scholars are invited who speak on, various subjects, and then we also have the conference, and we feel that, through this Kriti Samhita, lectures and the, conferences, we will be able to really, educate people about our knowledge system, about our Indian value systems, etc. And it will definitely be doing a great service to our country. One more thing I would like to mention here, that for this conference we definitely did a lot of publicity. But despite good publicity given, the attendance by others like student community, even IISc members, what we were expecting has not happened.
Hall is full now.
No, house is full down. I'm saying that if there were more people, you could have taken a much bigger venue also. But our effort will be to see that more publicity is given, more information is given out, so that whenever we have a conference of this nature, because the kind of scholarly presentations that were made over here, it needed to be dissipated to a much wider audience. Though of course through the electronic media and through the YouTube channel and other channels, etc., will definitely be putting across through our website, but physical presence would have definitely made a different kind of difference. But I would say that this is again the prejudice which was created in the past. It will take some time for us to eradicate that, to erase that, and I think we should not lose hope. We should really keep on working because ultimately it is knowledge which is power, not the other way. So if this knowledge is really brought out and made people to know, definitely what we are intending to achieve will achieve. Getting all these things on a digital platform will not be sufficient. The government will have to also play a part in fostering research. I have seen myself that when the government lends support, the corporate also come, and converse is equally true. So we would definitely be emphasizing upon the government that they should provide continuous support in every form, a resource being one of the most important one, and through that corporates also participate. One good development that has taken place, which I mentioned yesterday also, that ITC, they have set up an NGO called Bharat Ki Soch, who have also associated with us on their own as well as in our association. They are also basically focusing on what we are doing at IIC. So with these, I would again express my deep gratitude to all of you. And now I request my colleague, sorry, I forgot to mention the stellar role played by Dr. Sudha Gopalakrishnan and more particularly Niharika. And because Niharika is the one who has really worked very hard, connected with everybody, and he really made us to have a fantastic so in the form of this conference. So now I request my colleague, Secretary IIC, Air Commodore Kamal Valley, to formally propose a note of thanks.
Namaskaram to everyone. After such an enriching two-day session which we had over here, I feel that it's my honor as well as a privilege to deliver this vote of thanks. And to begin with, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to all those who are present here today, who were present in the last sessions which was held yesterday at the conference as well as the exhibition, to be present and to make it a resounding success. I would like to also thank Professor M.D. Srinivas for his truly inspiring and valedictory address. His scholarship, carried with such humility, has left us enriched and reflective. Not to forget our Honorable President Sri Shyam Saran, whose vision gave us this birth to the idea and who guided us at every stage at its conception. Our thanks to also our Director Sri K.N. Srivastava, whose meticulous planning and tireless efforts ensured that no detail was overlooked. Our sincere thanks to Dr. Sudha Gopalakrishnan for her guidance and leadership in methodically planning this conference and reaching out to the distinguished scholars, which resulted of many of you being present here today. We are also honored by the presence of and support of Dr. Jaishankar, Honorable Minister of External Affairs, who inaugurated the exhibition yesterday evening and affirmed the significance of Samhita project as a bold reclamation and re-engagement with our heritage. We remain grateful to the Ministry of External Affairs for their continued encouragement and support. Our heartfelt thanks to Professor Manjul Bhargava for his enthralling keynote address, which combined intellectual depth with rare accessibility. I thank all the distinguished scholars who contributed to this conference of 2 days. Their lectures have not only enriched the knowledge but also a clear and accessible, ensuring long-term value for students, researchers, and all those who are keen to understand the deep roots of South Asia's mathematical traditions. We are deeply indebted to Professor Ramasubramaniam, whose convening role, precision, and guidance helped in shaping this conference and for the displays of the invaluable exhibits. Our special thanks also to Dr. M.A. Alvar and his team at Sanskriti Foundation, Melkote, who painstakingly prepared and transported more than 50 rare manuscripts representing a wide range of scripts and traditions. We are grateful to Professor Chandrasekhar for facilitating access to many fine Persian manuscripts through institutions in Tashkent, Istanbul, and Iran. From the CTIKS, the dedicated support of Dr. Lalita Sarma and Dr. John Isube is also warmly acknowledged. Our thanks also goes to Dr. Nitin Goyal of the Rajasthan Oriental Research Institute, Bikaner, for making available the important manuscripts for display. We also acknowledge with gratitude to all the institutions and scholars who have shared their manuscripts and images for the collections which have been displayed. I must not forget to recognize the extraordinary effort of our designer Sushmita Sinha and the researcher Aniketa Kabir, who gave far more than was asked them to help this conference come to life. And finally, I would like to place on record our deepest gratitude for the tremendous hard work and meticulous planning and the flawless execution of this successful conduct of conference to Ms. Niharika and the entire ISC's team of the program department. To each one who is present here, the India International Center conveys its deepest appreciation. The event has been a collective achievement, and it is your support, scholarship, and commitment that has made it possible. Thank you, everyone, today.
Thank you so much for your kind words. We have to, may I request our director to honor Professor Srinivas?
That's it, Hor?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much.